Good afternoon and welcome to part 2 of our Peacock painting. I'm really looking forward. I just sprayed it. As you can see, I did a little bit of work after we hung up, after we stopped recording last time. Let me just move this slightly. There we go. Is that better? I think so. So I just darkened the edge here and I darkened the edge up here. I do want to do a full wash of these edges as well right now while I'm going in with more detail. I do like the center of the page and how that turned out. Let me just, apologies. Let me just grab my other paintbrush here. I have pencils and paintbrushes and just a reminder, we're following up from another day where we did a tracing of the peacock that you see over there. And then inspired by that tracing, we are continuing to work on this peacock. I'm going to turn off this image now so you can see my palette. And I got this big brush here, and I'm going to use this brush for... I'm just going to observe you guys better. Okay, there we go. I'm going to use this brush for a light wash of the upper part and the lower part of the painting. I'm also going to spray the paints to activate them in the palette in case I want to use it. So here we are. Now I'm going to moisten my paintbrush and the other paintbrush as well, just to keep them activated. And then I'm just going to grab a little bit of that permanent deep blue and just mix it in here. I need a pretty watery wash, but one that has strong color in it as well. And then I'm just going to wash through these upper parts. I'm not too worried what happens on the outside of these frames because that will be dealt with at a later time. And do I want to go deeper? I think I want to go deeper with this wash. I would like in the highest part there to be some really deep lines. And then, see, I've noticed that my voice goes really low when I'm painting, and it's not the best thing for video, so I am going to endeavor not to do that today. And I think I like that line, the dark blue line there. I might actually get another dark blue line going a little bit lower here. Let me see if that works out. All right, I do like that. I think it's very interesting how the layering process is working out. I'm now going to try to use, or I'm not going to try, I am going to use the paintbrush that came with the koi paints. Even though my well is not filled with water, I could fill it easily. There we go. Yeah, I'm aware that the water in my it's slightly blue, but you know what, that's not a big deal. It's not going to be a big deal coming forward. Now I think I would like to do a little bit more definition to the peacock's head and nose, and I will use that dark blue here. So this is the second wash. It is not the final wash, and I can still pick things up here. I'll have to accept the way they lay, and I can dissolve them or blend them into the background and pick them up with my paintbrush. That permanent blue deep is indeed a strong and vibrant color that's creating some really strong marks, but you know what? I am not daunted. And I'm just going to, because what I'm going to do in the third wash of the head of the peacock is I'm going to go in with some white gouache to redefine the beak and to redefine the eye area, because in a real peacock there's a white line around the eye. But for now, with this guy, I'm going to grab some darker color. Now, as you know, watercolor will do its own thing, and this one is absolutely doing that. But remember, this is only wash number 2. We can have more washes, and if this painting doesn't fulfill our expectations or desires on the third part, we might have to do a 4th in order to make sure that there is the right amount of washes. And that rich peacock blue is really coming out beautifully here. And don't worry, because every time we paint something, it has that awkward stage where it's not quite looking right. And this is it for our peacock's head. I'm going to try to pick up some of this dark color, sharpen the beak, wiping it on the cloth. I believe the beak is slightly too long. But you know, when this is dry, when the head is dry, I can also go in with some green from the background and give this head a little bit more definition. I'm going to pick up as much as I can of what came out of outside of the lines. I mean, we're not really playing in lines here. So here we have the body. And this is the important part, that these parts be nice and sharp. All right. I know I fell into the temptation of using white, but I just want to redefine this side of his neck and create a bit of a lightness. Now you have to remember, this paper has been treated with salt. It's also been treated with a lot of water. So even though it is watercolor paper, professional watercolor paper, it is showing a little bit. This one was the Fabriano watercolor hot press. But we don't have to worry about it, because no matter what happens to the paper in this, like the buckling and the moving of the paper in this stage, it will all come together in the last stage. So don't you worry. This is wash number 2. This is where we get a better handle on the shape of the peacock. And notice I am doing the strokes in line with the feathers. So any lines that happen will be in line with the natural feathers that the peacock would have. I'm really, really liking this deep, permanent blue. You know, there's a reason why some artists release paintings not painted live speed, but painted on the speeded up on their video. Because unless you're really, really into the theory, it may not be super interesting. Especially when I can't speak while I'm painting. I'm just preparing the head for the gouache layer. More water. And then I'm going in with a little bit of the white to give some definition to the feathers. Remember, this is only layer 2. I'm going in with the big brush, but I'm just pretty much using it dry just to blend a bit here with the feathers. So this is dry brush on wet paper. The paint is wet. I'm moving the paint around with the dry brush, blending it in as it comes along, and creating that shape, or giving them more of an illusion of the shape of the neck. Because this is not a realistic painting. This is absolutely an abstract, folk-inspired abstract, I would say. I just picked up a tiny bit of paint on here. And this folk-inspired abstract, we're going to do it like this. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. So that was the peacock's body. That's wash number 2. I think I'm going to leave that alone for now. I was looking at real peacocks, and the wings, they're not so pink. You know, the beautiful original drawing or painting had very pink wings. But what if we made them more orange? And that also matches the final graphics of the painting as well. And dark blue. Give me 1 second here. All right, let's go in with this color here. And we can see that this is completely wet. So the colors I'm looking at now are burnt umber or ivory black. And I tried ivory black the other day. This is ivory black here. It's too black. So I'm going with burnt umber, and I'm saturating or softening the paint. And then I'm going to go in. Like so. This more mimics the real peacock's feather patterns. We can highlight it later with gouache when we go into white with the white layer. And this is why I'm thinking there's going to be 4 washes. And then see, when I'm looking at this wing here, even though it's so well defined, I kind of feel like it's missing something. It's missing some kind of depth. And so I'm not sure if this is the right color, but it's here now, and that's what we're doing. So with this color in, the pattern of the wing is coming up more clear. I think what I need to do is darken the colors by mixing a few colors. So I'm going to go with the burnt umber here in my little palette. And I'm going to mix that burnt umber with some of that permanent blue that's already on the neck. Then we're going to have a related color to the one that we used on the neck. So it's giving us a kind of gray, which is really in line with what peacocks actually have on their wings. So going with the same kind of scalloped pattern as I did with the other color, which is almost invisible now, but that's totally fine. It's giving it depth and dimensions. And this darker color shows up way better. So then, as you can see, if we do highlights with white on top of that, it's going to be great. So, and I'm going into some of that pink now, dragging it in, or madder red, rather. Yes, that the pinkish color that I went in with was a madder red. And there we go. There we go. All right. Here we go. I'm just going to take this same dark color, and I'm going to create a bit of a wing outline for this guy with the same dark. This is still a folk-inspired painting, so we can pretty much do whatever we want. And then the tail. So now it comes to the tail. And maybe it was too early to rinse that off. But maybe what we're going to do is we're going to take that dark color. We're going to green it up. We're going to emerald it up here. And then this is where we're going to go into the parts of the tail that did not. And you know, now just for clarity's sake, I need to go in with that permanent blue, just a couple strokes in that tail area. And I think here it needs to be a little bit more defined, where the wing ends and the tail begins. Here you go. Now I see that this dark color has come out of its lines, so we're gonna fix that up a wee bit. And in here at the bottom, I'd like to do some kind of a green situation. Let's get some of the lighter greens in here. I'm throwing a little bit of the permanent blue because it's going to give us continuity. When I put this black down on the bottom here, I was not expecting to keep that there and be visible in the final painting, because this is supposed to be the greenery. This is the part where I spilt the salt, right? And this painting, as I'm working with it, it's becoming less folky and more just straight up semi-realistic abstract. That's fine. Whatever is born is born. As we're working with the subject, as we're working with the inspiration photo, I'll show you the inspiration photo again. It's becoming less and less like the painting, but that's completely fine. This is my inspiration. So since I saw the inspiration, I've also seen a number of actual Peacock photos. So my research, and especially in between the classes, because initially we were just working with color and that was fine and we were happy. But as the painting started growing out of my essence, I guess, as the painting started coming up, it started becoming a different painting, and maybe I'm messing it up and overworking it here, possibly. You know, nothing a little dark green won't fix. So I remember at the beginning I told you guys that it's really important for me to put the feet on this peacock. And that's true, and we're going to do that. Just a little inspiration, because not only am I planning to have a gouache layer on this painting, but I'm also planning to have a silver layer on this painting. So as we're getting closer to leaving it for the second layer, I am really tempted to do a little bit more green, especially around the head, which is now this olive green with maybe a little bit of leaf green in it for brightness. And then a lot of water. I'll blend it in, relax, jeez. It's not gonna stay like that. How am I gonna blend that in? No idea, but you know what? That's what watercolors are for. Let's first make sure that this is blended into the blue and that it's blended over here. A lot of the times when we work with watercolor, we have to be really mindful of our time, because it may or may not work out depending on our timing. And this thing, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this thing. Maybe what I'll do is just make this side completely darker. Very interesting process. There's a part of me that wants to kind of seal the edges, but I think that's not a good idea until I'm much closer to being done. maybe it's the Peacock caught in the middle of some important task that he was doing. I do think it's a good idea to do a first layer of the frame today. So I'm going to make a rather thick blending of this. I gotta be a little bit. This is very interesting. I think I'm liking the effect of the black frame, and I can do a lot with the black frame in the future if I do this as a background. So as long as I'm using the silver or the gold paints. With the black frame, it's going to be gorgeous. And I'm just going to remove, my gosh. Don't do it like me, ladies and gentlemen. Don't do it that way. And I'm taking advantage because I don't want to do this off camera, right? I mean, the logical step would be to wait until this is dry. But then this video would have 100 parts. And we don't really want a 100-part video. So just doing the black frame here. There we go. And the third side. Sometimes this is easier if you, for doing something as dark as this, is if you just use the paint out of the tube and you use that thick. But this frame is going to be very interesting. See, that top part already had water and other stuff on it. Let's see. So this is going to be it for today. We're just going to find a dry spot for me to touch while I paint the last side of the frame. And this can be a lot more saturated in the future. And that's why we're doing a layer today for the black frame, because if we want this frame saturated and painted with gold flowers, inspired by the Pakistani folk designs, I might paint some of the gold flowers off camera. Like I'll start on camera, but it may be very boring to watch me paint 100 little gold flowers for you guys. And let me know if it's not boring. I'll put it on video next time. But this time, at this point, wash number two. All I want to do is create the black frame for the peacock, define it, put the first wash on, and hopefully in the next video it'll be a much better one. Just want to thicken the coverage on this part. So as you can see, as I'm playing with this frame, some brush strokes deposit paint, but some brush strokes actually lift it, right? So you have to learn your brushes and your paints and how they relate to each other to really be able to tell which brush stroke is going to lift. And also not working with moist paint like I'm doing, waiting for each layer to dry, doing straight layers. Some of that is challenging for me because I know you guys don't want to see 1,000 videos of the same picture. And so here's layer 2. We're going to leave it now, and we're going to figure out how we're going to finish it up in the next video, or probably 2. But I want to retain some of the elements from the Pakistani original. At the same time, I want to be able to do something more realistic in here. All right, and we're going to define it and layer it, and it's going to be beautiful. I just feel that I put too much here. Am I going to be able to lift it? Yes. This is lifting. This is lifting. I'm revealing the layer underneath as I'm going at it with water, because I got a little too aggressive in that one corner here. Right. So I lifted on purpose this time. And next time I can touch that up a little bit with the permanent blue. Actually, I could probably touch it up now with permanent blue. It's a little dry. And this way, I am softening the transition between the black and the blue, and allowing these colors to really frame the top. And then I can do the same thing at the bottom. But what I'm going to do at the bottom here is I'm going to make it blue as well. And again, some brush strokes deposit while others lift. Let's make sure we do what we want, what we're supposed to be doing, not the opposite. All right, this is it for layer 2 of the Peacock, playing with color and creating these different depths. This is still the background, so we're still working on the background here. The actual painting will come next week, or maybe even the week after that. Or sorry, not next week. What am I saying? Next video, which probably will be tomorrow or Sunday. Or we may continue into the next week for finishing touches if just the wet paint won't let us create what we want. But thank you very much for your attention today, and I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I'll see you all tomorrow.